in GPSC, and we have now this week we have planned on assessment because September is the time for assessment, and for primary classes continuous assessment keeps on happening. So we thought it is the right time to discuss and get new ideas on how to take assessment in the school. And for this, I have the esteemed panel of 3 principals from our GPSC schools. I have Ms. Anuradha Handa, Principal GD Goenka Public School Sector 48, Gurugram. I also have Ms. Arpita Acharya, Officiating Principal Bluebell School Sector 10, Gurugram, and Ms. Dr. Anshu Arora, Principal Amity Sector 43, Gurugram, as the moderator. I first welcome and invite Ms. Anuradha Handa, who is the founder principal of GD Goenka Public School Sector 48, Gurugram. She has been rendering her contribution to society as an educator for the last 3 decades. A postgraduate in physics from Delhi University, she has worked in a number of areas, I would say not only restricted to physics, but other areas also, but especially with CBSE in developing learning outcomes for physics for classes 11th and 12th. She has also written and edited physics lab manuals for grades 12th and science activity books series for grades 6 to 8th. She has a vast experience of visiting a number of schools, visiting a number of countries, and in fact, she was very lucky and honored when she was amongst the 12 principals from across the country selected to go for training to the University of Cambridge, UK. I welcome you, Anuradha, and after Anuradha, we'll have Anshu as moderator and Arpita as the panelist. So first I invite Anuradha. Please come.
Thank you, Aparna ma'am. A very good afternoon to our eminent members of the GPSC Managing Committee, our Chairperson, Madam Aparna Eri, Vice Chairperson, Dhriti ma'am, Secretary, Aarti Chopra ma'am, Joint Treasurer, Chandan Dhawan ma'am, and Treasurer, respected Dr. Indu Khetarpal, and our esteemed principals from the GPSC school and all educators who are on board with us watching this webinar on assessment. Let me just share my screen 1 second, and then we would start with the presentation on. So as the name suggests, and as has already been briefed by Aparna ma'am, this is on assessments, types, and tools, being called as Mulyankan. So let us first have the definition of what assessment is. So how do we define assessment? Assessment, as we understand it, is the collection and evaluation of evidence of a student's learning. And of course, it is very integral to teaching and learning, and it fulfills multiple purposes. Now, what are those purposes? It enables students to demonstrate knowledge. It enhances student engagement and motivation, as we all understand that what the children are learning, the learning outcome of that is assessed through the assessments. So definitely, on account of assessment, there is enhancement of the student engagement. It provides an opportunity to gather evidence of the student achievement, and it is a basis for their future learning, as the children getting assessed know where to head. Now, from moving on from what assessment is, let us understand the 3 types of assessment. Assessment of learning, which we are most familiar with, which is essentially about what the child is learning. So the learning outcomes of those are measured through assessment of learning, what we call as summative assessment. I would not be talking about it, as my co-presenter, Arpita ma'am, would be taking you through the assessment of learning. What I would be talking about is the other 2 types of assessment, which is assessment for learning and assessment as learning. But before we go on to the explanation of the 2 types of assessments, I would like to draw a little bit of a reference to our NEP, National Education Policy, which is laying a lot of emphasis on these assessments based on the vision of NEP. So the NEPs, as it was, the NEP was discussed in our last webinar, where the vision of the NEP is learning how to learn. So it is integrated learner-centered learning, and it emphasizes on developing the problem-solving ability of the children through inquiry-driven and critical thinking methods, pedagogies, and techniques. Transformative learning, which is discovery-oriented and holistic. And the most important part of education being character building. Now that is how our National Education Policy 2020 is being envisioned, on which a lot of our esteemed principals have thrown light in the GPSC webinars and even otherwise. So what is the bigger objective of NEP? Well, NEP talks about education for life and not for living. So far, the school education and the college education that the children go through is more perceived as something that enables them to earn their living. But now we are looking, of course, India, when we look at the history of our country, education had always been for life, but it somehow got transferred, or rather it got converted, the objective got changed to not for living rather than for life. But with NEP, we are going back to what we stood for, making people live their life. Living is a consequence. So as looking at that, when we are assessing so far, assessment of learning here forms the base. So far, it has been that the children learn, and what they have learned is assessed through assessment of learning. The other part of assessment which we are familiar with as part of CCE was assessment for learning. The ongoing assessment, something that we make use of even in our, as part of our internal assessment. And the third is the assessment as learning. So if you look at this, definitely the maximum part of assessment is assessment of learning in our current style of assessments. There is lesser emphasis on assessment for learning and the least on assessment as learning. But with NEP 2020, we are definitely looking at assessments reconfigured, where surely assessment of learning will always continue to be a part of our assessments, but there is greater emphasis being laid on assessment for learning and as learning. So with this, the paradigm shift that we are looking at in the years to come, let us understand a little bit more about assessment for learning. What does it stand for and how we go about doing it? So assessment for learning it reflects a view of learning in which the assessment helps students learn better rather than just achieve marks. So it is not a marks-oriented assessment. Marks are the outcome, but there is greater emphasis on the real learning that is taking place. Enabling the learner is the reason for assessment. So what are the characteristics of assessment for learning? It involves formal and informal assessment activities. And I'm sure we've all been doing that as part of CCE when we had those detailed plans made, and we still do that as part of our internal assessments. Includes clear goals for the learning activity. Because since it's an ongoing assessment, so clear goals are very, very important, short-term and long-term. Provides effective feedback that motivates the learner. I think this is the most beautiful part of assessment for learning, because as the child gets to know his level of learning and the teacher provides the necessary intervention and the feedback that the child gets is motivating the learner. This kind of learning, in fact, helps the child take his own greater responsibility, and it encourages self-assessment and peer assessment as part of the regular classroom routines. It involves teachers, students, and parents reflecting on evidence. So the work that the children are doing in their notebooks as part of activities, that is the evidence, and the students, the teachers, and the parents collectively look at that. Therefore, to sum up, assessment for learning begins with the belief that every learner can improve. All students can improve. So everybody can be at a different level of learning, but there is scope for everyone to improve. So that is what assessment for learning is all about. The next is assessment as learning, the third type of assessment. So assessment as learning occurs when students are their own assessors. So it is about cognition, thinking about thinking, knowing about knowing, and aware of one's awareness. So from a student's perspective, the student is aware of how aware I am. Student analyzes his own or her own knowledge, thinks about what he or she is thinking. So what are the characteristics of assessment as learning? It starts with learners become aware of how they learn. That is, it is metacognitive. So the student takes greater responsibility of his own assessment of his or her own learning. It requires students to ask questions about their learning. So at every stage, the student is aligned with his or her own progress, and the need to be assessed and the need to become better is the need of the child. Involves teachers and students together creating learning goals to encourage growth and development. So in this kind of an assessment, it is not that the teacher is creating an examination paper for the child and the child is answering, and from that we draw a conclusion of the level of learning of the child. It is engaging where students and teacher are together engaging, and therefore it encourages growth and development. Students use formal and informal feedback and self-assessment to help them understand the next step in learning. It is very reflective in nature. So the assessment as learning is therefore very, very learner-oriented, learner-centered, where the learner takes the first step. And to learn is the need of the learner. Now, these assessments, the two types of assessments that I have spoken about, what are the tools for their assessment? Because it sounds very positive and happy that we are talking about, the student at every step being guided, there being reflection, motivation, intrinsic motivation. But how does one carry out this kind of assessment? That is, what are the tools? So as we understand, tools are those instruments that help us collect data and reach an outcome. So for these two types of assessments, the tools that we can rely upon, some examples, there are many tools, I've just picked up a few: observations, concept maps and mind maps, assignments, ongoing assignments, case studies, project-based learning, collaborative work, which everyone is talking about, and I'm sure we've done a lot of work in this COVID era on all these, self, peer, and parent assessment, and portfolios. So I would just be picking up about 3 to 4 of these examples to deliberate a little more in detail so that we can concretize the tools that I am talking about. So the first tool being observation. You see, the tools that we have spoken about, the examples that I have taken up here, so it is not that they are specific to only assessment for learning or as learning. Even assessment of learning can happen from there. Only the usage of the tool changes depending on the type of assessment that we are doing. So when we talk of making an observation as a tool of assessment for learning or of learning, so teacher observation can provide information about student achievement in relation to the outcome. Now, the observations that the teacher makes, the evidence that the teacher can gather, it can be formal or informal. Informal observation and feedback occurs during teaching and learning activities on an ongoing basis. You are looking at the response of the child on a regular basis. and you are looking at how the child is attempting or behaving or responding to the work that is being given to the child or the tasks that are at hand. While formal observation involves planning for an opportunity to observe specific learning outcomes. So they are predefined, and the child comes with a preparation and a formal observation of the child's learning habits. Some of the activities that we can undertake for observation as part using observation as a tool for assessment are listening and viewing tasks. So teacher-student discussions, conferences. So here the observations can be recorded. Student participation in practical activities and demonstrations. So that also is observation-based. Strategic questioning, demonstrating conceptual understanding of key concepts by way of viva, by way of discussion. Observation of students, they participate and engage during learning activities such as listening to the language, the LSRW activities or application of skills, ICT integration. So these are the various activities in which we can undertake observations and use them for assessment for learning. So, like in the junior class, the children are doing their work. So whatever they are doing, they are just showing. So this is just an example of how the observations are being used as a tool on a digital platform, And obviously, once we are making the observation, the next step is to record those observations. So recording of observations obviously has to be with a pre-decided criteria for observation. Let us say when we are talking of language, then in language, there is expression, there is writing, there is pronunciation, there is diction, there are spellings. So for each of the subjects, we can have the pre-decided criteria based on which we are going to be observing the children, and they can be recorded. And these observations, from these observations, then we can draw out the conclusions, which can be used for also, you see, as we said that this is observation for assessment for learning. So we can pick from these observations as to what are the kind of interventions that the child requires for improvement. Because the bigger objective of these two types of assessments is to provide the necessary support and intervention for the improvement of the child. Let's take another example now of another tool rather, the project-based learning or collaborative work. See, project-based learning or collaboration. So every project-based learning need not be collaborative, but we generally tend to, we want that our children should work together, because another aspect of this kind of assessment is to develop the essential skills in children. You see, when we talk of collaboration, the first thing that is important here is how the children are working as a team. And we understand that team building, the team spirit that we talk of, it is very necessary to inculcate it at a young age, because eventually we are all going to be part of a team or heading a team. Therefore, it is important that, when we are taking children through these kind of assessment and experiences, we ensure that they work in teams and they develop the necessary team ethics. So collaborative learning occurs as a result of interaction between students engaged in the completion of a common task. Students work together face-to-face and in and out of classroom. They can use ICT to enable group discussion or complete collaborative tasks within their school, between schools, nationally, internationally. I think in the COVID era, that's what we have all done. We have, the way we have collaborated, the kind of, even competitions that we are doing or collaborating nationally, internationally. So collaboration has really become the way of life in these last 5 months that we've all gone through. So what are the various activities that we can take as part of our assessment here? Group discussions, group prepared presentations, team assignments, investigations, critiquing, working with mixed ability groups, differentiated group activities. This is something which is working very well, especially in this time, because in a physical school setup. If we have to divide children into group, we have to make sure that, you know, for each group, there is a teacher who will interact with them, deal with them at a parallel level. But now, in this kind of a setup that we have, we can give different times to different groups, and we can engage children, we can assess them, we can guide them. So this kind of a working, in fact, is the strength of this time. Think, pair and share, content creation, learning management, peer feedback. So all of these are the activities which are collaborative activities which can be taken up, and definitely they can be assessed. But for them to be able to do a fair and correct assessment, what is assessment tasks have to be very well structured and planned. There has to be a clear structure and plan of working. Because if we are assessing the children, our criteria for assessment, our guidelines for assessment, that is the rubric, has to be very, very clearly developed well before we introduce these projects to our children. Sharing of rubric with students is important, because to fix the expectation of the learner is very, very necessary. Because you see, that also empowers children. That also gives them a direction to look for an upward journey. Fixing the expectations by sharing the rubric with them. And of course, the group dynamics should always have a weightage when we are creating the rubric, so that that particular skill that we are talking of, that is developed. There is motivation within the child that, you know, there also our team should get the maximum marks. So just an example of a certain rubric that can be developed, that we have developed for one of our research-based projects, where every criteria is listed. So we are looking at the learner aiming at being proficient in all these categories. You know, so through a rubric, the child is looking at those finer details which probably an examination paper may not bring him to, and understanding the nuances of each component of the assessment. So let's say if they were making the research-based project, so what is the research content? How are we integrating subjects? Because CBSE is asking us to make integrated, you know, integration is the thing that is there now and for the future. What is the originality of the idea? Because we are not looking at our children just copy pasting information from here and there. How is the art being integrated there? What is the methodology? What are the conclusions drawn? How is it being documented? How is it being referred? The referencing is being done. Presentation skills of the group, answering of questions that are put to them when they are making the presentation, and group dynamics. So let every child aim for that 44. Now that is the motivation that the child draws out of such an assessment. And definitely, these kind of assessments lead to self-development, because there is self-learning, there is intrinsic motivation. As I said, you fix the expectation, you've left it to the learner, so the learner is intrinsically motivated to move in that direction. Children are more open to assessment. They are less threatening assessments, you know. And of course, there is exhilaration for clarity. And through that, what are we looking at? We are looking at developing their problem-solving approach. We are looking at developing lifelong learners, a positive attitude to learning, and what our NEP says and what we all as educators dream of, joy of learning. I think we are looking at all our children to be, you know, having learning to be a joyous experience. And that will happen when the assessment is a joyous experience for them. And I take you to the last tool of our assessment of and as learning, and portfolio definitely comes across as a tool for assessment as learning. I am personally in love with portfolio, because, you know, this is such a beautiful tool to make a child realize his own potential and cause intrinsic motivation. So it is a purposeful collection of intentionally chosen work by a student, representing a selection of performances that is assembled over time. Even in the CBSE manual, all this information is presented so very well. So for a portfolio, the types of the portfolios, that we have. So whether portfolio is seen as a product or as a process, probably both, that's what we should be looking at. So when you look at a portfolio as a product, it holds the performance records and documents a student has produced during the learning course and represents a collection of their learning achievements. You know, it's a very precious document that they create. And as a process, it enables learners to monitor their own learning systematically, reflect on their performance, redirect their efforts, and set future goals. So I think reflection is one word which we all, need to inculcate in our children of today, because that's how we'll make a better tomorrow, looking within and then wanting for more. So guidelines in such a case, students must be involved, because you see, any assessment which is for and as learning, the preparation is most important for that. Otherwise, it will just go by and we would not be able to collect or conduct or reach the desired outcome. So students must be involved in the selection of piece of work. It should include information that shows students' self-reflection and self-criticism. Very important part of reflection. Must reflect the students' activities in learning, serve different functions at different times of the year, whether it is your work which is coming from the scholastic domain, the co-scholastic domain, your leadership positions, your experiences as part of participation. So portfolio will reflect the learning curve of the child. So this is a great tool for assessment as learning, just sharing some of our experiences. So, when we have to start with making the child reflect. So create a reflection sheet, an example of a reflection sheet that we've created, because, again, on an online platform, this is just an opportunity for us to get the portfolios created and make real use of this tool, because at this point of time, our children need maximum intrinsic motivation. Their engagement, because we are all missing their physical presence in our classrooms. So to keep them engaged, it is important that these reflections happen. Children think about what they stand for, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. So this is the kind of reflection sheets that we got filled, and move on to the teacher going through that reflection sheet and talking to children and building on that and helping the child to dig deeper. Now, this is also a way to help child have a strong mental health, looking within and gaining confidence to accept. That is something which comes out beautifully through building of a portfolio. So we are using Class Dojo for building portfolio. It is a good platform and for the junior ones. So, any kind of work of the junior and what the children are doing and the teacher's remark on that can be represented here. So I just almost conclude my presentation, but I would like you to just have a look at one of the portfolios which has been created by a senior student, because for them it is of great use. The child has been building whatever they have been doing. I would just want to throw a little light on the vision of the child, because it tells all about the skills acquired, the leadership positions that the child has undertaken, what the child has achieved in all these years, and the vision that the child carries. So, this we can understand from here that how it helps the child through this reflection build upon whatever is his learning and his understanding of the learning. So to conclude, I think my last slide will just sum up. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So I would like to sum up the assessment for and as learning. I made my own assessment of life and I began to live it, and that was freedom. And I think that is the freedom that we are looking for our children. Thank you so much.
That was wonderful, Anuradha. Really nice to hear about it, and very new ideas also, which I'm very sure everybody is going to incorporate and make teaching learning process more interesting. I now welcome Ms. Arpita Acharya. She is officiating principal, Bluebells Public School Sector 10, Gurugram. Arpita has a rich teaching experience of approximately 25 years. She has been a mathematical educator, She has a good knowledge of her subject and has been working with the Bluebells group of schools for the past 17 years. She was associated with IT and Science Department for setting up the first Atal Tinkering Lab in Gurugram and setting up of IT-enabled Maths Lab. She has also been honored and has received the Best Mathematics Teacher Award from the Minister of Education, Delhi. So I now welcome Arpita. Please come.
Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to all the distinguished members of the gathering. I thank Aparna ma'am for the beautiful introduction. And I'm also grateful to Anuradha ma'am for setting the tone for today's presentation. I'm here to discuss the key points with respect to the assessment of online learning and will majorly be focusing on summative assessment. We all know that times are tough, but we must know that we are tougher. We all will successfully fight this pandemic and will overcome all the hurdles, including how to conduct assessment online. So with this note, I will begin with my presentation. I'll share the screen. Yes. So we are here, like I'll be talking about the summative assessment. Before we do that, Anuradha ma'am has already spoken about assessment for learning and assessment as learning. I'll be taking up assessment of learning. Formative assessment has already been discussed in detail by Anuradha ma'am. I'll be taking up summative assessment, which measures the student's proficiency and certifies learning. It serves the purpose of assessment of learning. Assessment, whether offline or online, includes a wide variety of tools to measure the academic readiness of the learners. As we have our midterm exams approaching, we will majorly be focusing on how to conduct assessment of learning through the online mode. Ever since we have moved from the pen and paper test to the online exams and classes, assessment has been looked as a big challenge for most of us. So for summative assessment, we have been comfortable using the pen and paper since ages to teach and test our students. Unfortunately, this pandemic has made it impossible for us to meet our children. Since the only option now left is to test them online, let's learn how to use technology at our advantage when it comes to conducting exam. Online pattern of exam comparatively has a wider reachability to the students irrespective of the geographical location, as some of them must be stuck at the hometowns or grandparents' place during the lockdown. Also, we are able to produce immediate result in many of the tests. If the tests are designed thoughtfully, then we can ensure that the students are not able to use unfair means while attempting the exams. Keeping in mind the Bloom's taxonomy, which as educator we have always been following, we can have a host of online assessment methods which go right from creating multiple choice question, portfolios, projects, stimulations, art integrated activities, mind maps, experiential learning, and so on. Now let us begin with how we can design an effective online exam. Online exam can be designed both in the objective as well as subjective format. It can also be a combination of both. Also, it is possible for us to have a uniform marking system all across the questions or have different marks allotted to different questions. As we design the online exam, we have a complete flexibility of allotting the total time that is required for the students for attending the questions. It is possible for the objective questions to be have instant results, as the answers can already be fed into the system while we are making the question paper. To ensure that the students do not copy the answers from each other, we have an option of shuffling the questions. The students cannot, in that case, discuss the answer for a particular question number, as the questions that have the different numbers in another child's question paper would be different. Also, the video of each and every student should be switched on during the exam. Here we have some clear-cut examples to show how we can have. It is a little tricky, but not difficult for us to move from a pen and paper test to an online mode. We start with maths, maths being my subject. I'll start with an example of maths. The concept of graph and quadrants can be tested by plotting the points on the graph paper and then marking the quadrants. The same concept can be tested by giving an image of the graph and the question asked based on it. This type of questioning will also take care of whether the student has been able to understand the concept of the graph. Also, which is the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, all would be clear in this kind of a method also. Here you can see on the screen a similar example for science. We have the diagram and the names of the organs that have been asked. So on an online test, we can ask the students to fill what is A, what is B, C, and D. So all the organs labeling that can be done by the students. Next, here we have an example of a social science. This is an interesting activity where the students can easily be asked to rearrange the events in a particular sequence as they have happened. So this also tests the knowledge whether the child knows all the activities or not, all the events in a sequence manner if the child is putting it. On maps, places can be marked and the students can be asked to identify them. In accountancy, we can ask the students to fill in the missing data. We can have the balance sheets also where the missing entry needs to be filled. Like here in this on screen, we have A, B, C, D. So all these missing entries also the students can fill it. So it can be typed on an online mode and the outcome can be tested. Match the following type of a question can also be asked and the students need to correct the correct answer. Here on the screen, we have a chemistry example where we can have the match the following and a final result can be tick marked on an online exam also. Case studies. These case studies are a very excellent way to assess the learning. Here there is a paragraph which is given and the students will be asked to write down, say, 3 functions of management highlighted in the paragraph. So for this, the child has to have the knowledge, read the entire paragraph, and then see whether he has understood the concept or not. But for this, you know that cheating is not possible. Use of unfair means is not possible because the thorough knowledge of the topic is required here. Image-based questions can also be asked. Now we have choosing of odd one out from the given 4 statements. This kind of an example can go with every subject. So here also, this is a good way of assessing the learning of the student. Even pictorial identification can be asked as a question. Then we come to assertion and reasoning questions. This really helps the students to develop the reasoning skill. So here on screen, I have 2 examples of assertion and reasoning. One is for the science and another is for social science. So both the places, it can be assessed properly. The child goes through the entire written material and marks out whether the assertion is right, reasoning is right, and accordingly develop the understanding of the topic. It is very important to have a lot of clarity amongst the teachers and the students as well as the parents about the instructions to be followed during the online assessment. We must understand that there are 3 parties involved here which suffer from some amount of anxiety when it comes to assessment. And we are talking about a completely new way of assessing the students. So there has to be anxiety. We understand that. We must also have a mock test conducted for the test for every subject before the main exam. That really helps the students to understand. We must also make it clear that they can attempt the question in the given time and can submit the response only once. Also such instructions that whether it is a subjective type paper or an objective type paper should be informed well in advance. There are multiple tools and platforms available to create assessment questions for the children. We must see and assess what suits our needs the best before starting with the question papers. Factors like if the question paper needs to be a simple one for the younger children or more complicated one for the senior group. If you require a specific or free response answer, if you want to include a multiple choice question or not, do we want the question to be self-checked by the system or do we want them to be graded personally? This all can be checked. Even is there any requirement of a usage of a multimedia in that case? We want the children to attempt the test on pen and paper or upload. All the options should also be available. The process of conducting the online assessment is not a complicated one. The teacher is conducting the exam, designs the question paper for the students. The teacher sets up the schedule, uploads the question on which they have to test. The students have to be tested. The students already have a login ID which has been given already, which can be used to join the link. Then the login test, the test can be monitored by the evaluators. Once the student submits the test, it is evaluated by the system or the evaluator depending upon the type of question. The participants are then sent the test scores. Some of the very important pointers that should be taken care of while making an online assessment include keeping in mind the age group that we are catering to. Check for a strong Wi-Fi connection so that it does not get disconnected during the test. A mock test to be taken, which I've already told you, it is a very important tool. A mock test to be conducted before the exam so that the student can understand the platform and the teacher can time the exam also accordingly. So over here we have certain guidelines for the students. It can be given as a circular to the students before the exam, and also we can have a webinar for the student and the parents to apprise them about what are the key areas to be taken care of and how the exam is to be conducted. Clear-cut guidelines and clear communication with the parents and students will help the students to attempt the exam in a better way. So there are different options given. The steps are given, which we are using Microsoft Forms. These are the steps which are there. Platform to platform, things might vary. So over here, the hyperlink is sent by the class teacher. Then whether it is activated or not, we double click on it, press Ctrl plus click in order to do. These pointers are very useful for if it is given well in advance to the parents. The students must join the class at the given time according to the invite sent by the teacher. In case the hyperlink is already sent and it is not working, then there's an option of having another window open or put it in the chat box on the day of the exam. So this is also another way that it can reach the students. So we should adhere to the word limit. The students have to be also instructed that they should adhere to the word limit, the total time allotted for each question. They must attempt the exam independently and should be well aware that the question paper will be deactivated automatically once the allotted time is over. There is also an option of submitting the paper after the allotted time. There's no option like that which is available. So that should be very clear. And keeping the cameras on and the mic off should be very important. And also no headphones are permitted. We should also write it in the circular that headphones will not be permitted. So these are some important guidelines that we can put it in a form of a circular and give it to the students. There are so many tools available on the internet that we can choose from. So it is according to the requirement of the test, we can accordingly choose a platform for us. So there are free online surveys, which is a tool which allows the teachers to create surveys, quizzes, forms, polls quickly and easily. Also, we have Google Forms, which also can be used for this purpose. Microsoft Forms is an application which allows you to create shareable surveys, quizzes, polls in minutes, and also this form tracks down the participants' response, providing real-time results and analytics for this survey. Flipgrid is also a very important tool in which the students use the videos to respond to the prompts. Quizzes are also there, Kahoot, and there are a number of other platforms which are available. I'll just try to showcase one of the platforms and go step by step how to get a paper made. It becomes easier. Step by step, we can go through it. Let us get started. Over here, if we have a form, this is an example of a Microsoft form that I'm taking here. There is an option of a new form and a new quiz. Form is usually used for a survey. Quiz is for making the question paper. Now next, we can have add a new quiz, add a new question paper over here. Choosing the type of the question, there has to be a choice given. By default, there are two options given. If we want to add on more options, that can also be added. We can insert the text that is required to make the question paper, and then whether it is a long question or a short question can be specified. We can upload over here, file can be uploaded for a subjective question. Even we can get a new folder in the OneDrive where we can easily get the questions made, and we can also limit the file size. Also, we can see whether the file size can be 10 MB, 100 MB or 1 GB. So these are few of the steps. In fact, for typing mathematical symbols, it is very important that we have a system in which we choose a software in which we have the mathematical symbols also can be typed. Like here, on clicking, we can get a virtual keyboard of math symbols so that we can type maths questions easily. And uploading pictures, like I had shown certain examples where there were pictures in the question. So we can upload the pictures also. We can click on insert image and upload the picture. And then we can add it from any other website also. And upload. We can preview the question paper. Once we see the question paper, we click on the preview button. We can see the preview from the computer or the mobile. We can change the theme of the question paper. I'm going step by step so that anyone who wants to understand any one of the platforms can use it also. We get the link for the paper. The sharing of the link can be done. If there are 2 or more sections who have to attempt the same paper, then we can copy the link and duplicate the link also. Then check for the settings which are there and see whether we want to shuffle the question, what should be the start time, what should be the end time, and record the name. All these options are also possible to look into. For evaluations, the responses would come to us, we post the score, we review the answer and click on the names of the students and post the score, which can be in the Excel format or it can be posted directly through the link. So these are the few, and when we are sharing the results with the students, we can copy the link and share with the students. So this is all that is there for the presentation. Happy online learning. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Arpita, and thank you, Anuradha. I think that was a well-detailed, beautifully conducted
Yeah,
workshop.
just a minute, Anshu.
Yeah.
Let me welcome you and introduce you to our audience. Dr. Anshu Arora is a CBSE awardee and currently principal of Amity International School, Sector 43, Gurugram. She has 27 years of teaching and administrative experience in different prestigious institutions. She has written Comptitude, a series of computers aptitude books, and I never knew that, Anshu, that you have written a Hindi poetry book, and you have authored 2 fictions also, The School Tales for School Children and Say Bye to Goodbye for Young Adults. She is the recipient of Jewel of India Award, Limca Book Recognition, Best Guru by Olympiad Foundation, and a lot more. I welcome you now, Anshu.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you so much. That's really, really kind words. So I think we've had a beautiful workshop where Anuradha has really discussed about the why of examination, why should we do assessment, and Arpita has taken us through how of doing it, you know. An assessment, as they say, is a beautiful tool and it really helps in substantial learning. So Anuradha, my question to you is that what are the core competencies that need to be developed in teachers for the right kind of assessment? Because I look at assessment as an art. Because unless a right question paper is given to the child, nothing worthwhile will happen.
Thank you, Anshu. As far as the teachers are concerned, like I was talking of the 2 types of assessments, which is assessment for learning and assessment as learning, which is more of an ongoing assessment. So here the teacher has a lot of flexibility, and I think catering to differentiated learners is something which, you know, we must get into as far as these 2 types of assessments are concerned. So definitely capacity building is important, because understanding the nuances of assessments is very important for a teacher. But more than that, I think the teacher must have the right kind of understanding of the learner, because learner understanding and as we say that these 2 types of assessments are meant to bring in since they are formative in nature, so they are required to help the child improve and for the teacher to tailor her classes as per the you know, the performance of the children in these assessments. So probably one, of course, that you know, understanding that how I will be able to gauge the real level of learning of the child, you know, a training in that, and more importantly, understanding the learner. You know, that's what I would say in the 2 types of assessment that I spoke of. That's the understanding that the teacher needs to develop, or we need to develop in teachers and in educators, for them to be doing justice to these assessments.
Okay, thank you. And Aditi ma'am has a question where she's asking if you've tried subjective exams and did you face any challenges?
So we have not tried the subjective exams as such, but what we have started now, you know, to prepare the children for the subjective exams is that we are doing marked assignments, you know. So where the child is being given a target, a daily target of doing a certain number of questions in their registers, and we fixed each day. So each day there is, you know, let's say today there is an English class, so we have differentiated learners, they've been divided into 2 batches. So the child is doing that and sharing it with the teacher, and those are being marked. So we are heading towards the children being ready for a subjective examination, and turning that in through even because we are using the G Suite platform. So doing an assignment and also scanning it and turning it on through the platform. So it is a preparation, but yes, I think getting ideas from Arpita and maybe from this platform, we have to get ready for the final assessment that is going to happen at the end of the term for it to be most fair. But I'm sure as a mechanism of ongoing assessments, we will be able to gauge if the children are fairly being assessed, or see, there will always be, we will have to go with a lot of faith when we are assessing them on an online medium. But more are our ongoing assessments closer we will be to fair assessment in the summative assessment is what I
Thank
would.
you. Arpita ji, thank you so much. I think you really taught us, Arpita, how to create a form, how to take and how to conduct an online exam. Now, my question to you is that I look at online exams, especially the formative and the forms and everything, as very cost effective. They're very environment friendly and they're easy to track. It takes away all the workload from the evaluator. After making the question paper, by and large, everything is done. So do you see the online assessment as the future of Indian education?
In fact, during these times only, we have understood that how important it has been to conduct the online exams. Because if we, in fact, we should not say that these are the pandemic times. During this pandemic times, we have actually learned how to learn new IT skills. Our teachers have taken up all the skills, they have learned all, and use of this MS Word that we have done. There were certain teething issues, of course, in the beginning. But of course, the challenges which are there, they were not much. We, in fact, had tried the subjective test also, a trial test, as I have been telling in my presentation, mock test. So we have taken mock test also. But if you see that if the question papers are designed in a proper way, it cannot be based on the rote learning. It can be like the question papers, if they are designed in a proper way, it will take more time also. It is not that the teachers will not take time. And all the subjective questions need not be answered like that. It can be also on a pen and paper. It can be uploaded. So checking also remains with the teacher. So it is a whole 360-degree evaluation which happens. So I think that after we start with the normal times also, we should continue with some of the practices that we have learned in this pandemic, so that further, whenever any situation arises, we are all there to fight for it.
Thank you. I think the success of the workshop is very clear from the chat box because I don't see any questions. But I would ask the house if anyone would want to pose a question to our eminent speakers here. I think everything has been so beautifully explained in such great detail that it is very well understood. So maybe in the end, let me just propose a vote of thanks. Thank you so much, both of you. It was a beautiful learning experience and understanding, the what, the how and why of assessment, which is so needed in the life of a learner. Without the right kind of assessment, I don't think he can have the right graph of learning, and growth and substantial gain cannot happen. So we've also in this tough times we have found the best and the easy ways of learning and assessment. So thank you for taking us through that. Aparna
And
ma'am, would you
yeah,
like to add on something?
yeah, it was a wonderful session. Lot of learning has taken place today. And I'm very sure all my dear friends, you are going to go back to your schools and try to implement the same. I'm very sure most of us are already doing this. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, everyone. God bless.
Thank you so much. Thanks.